Hello, I'm Brent Farris, and in this video, I'm going to talk about networking at a very high level. It's not going to cover all of networking. Um, that's just something you learn with experience. So I'm going to give kind of a basic overview, kind of fluff things so that you can kind of get the concept of networking as a whole. So why am I making this video? I'm making this video because I've had a lot of feedback over the past year for Forge networking, and people want tutorials. And we gave lots of tutorials for the system as a whole, but we don't have enough tutorials to get people introduced to networking in order to understand when and how they should use all of those features that we've shown them. So I'm going to make this video, I'm going to make some short videos in segments of kind of what networking is and how it ties into Forge networking. I am Brent Farris, the owner of Bearded Man Studios, and I created Forge Networking. And you can find it on the Unity Asset Store. Just check out Forge Networking. Let's jump past all that and let's get straight to the networking part. So there's a couple of things to understand about networking. Let me get rid of some of these things. Okay, so we have three computers, right? Um, and there's a couple structures that we use. One that's very common is, let's keep those computers on, peer-to-peer. So peer-to-peer is basically everyone's connected to each other. There's no thought of this centralized server. So I can talk to, I'll be this guy on the left, and I can talk to this guy, and I can talk to that guy, and they can talk to each other. It's just anything goes. We can send messages all over the place. Now, the more common structure that you'll see in the industry, mostly for security, well, pretty much mainly for security, is a server-client architecture, where you have a centralized server. Let's say this still is me, and my two friends, but they can't talk to each other directly. They actually talk to me, and I relay the information to the rest of the guys. So if this client sends me something, I can relay it to everyone else. So this is a more common structure, and this is the base structure of Forge networking. So Forge networking is a server-client implementation. So the server is kind of the gatekeeper, and it can manipulate and track all of the data that's being sent and prevent some data from being sent in case of hacking or anything like that. So another thing to understand about networking is bits or bytes. I have 2 bytes here, made up of 8 bits each. This is just duplicated. So bits are basically just a 0 or 1. It's a Boolean value, and with that Boolean value, we can represent everything you see in the computer world. So we pack those together in a byte. So we have 8 bits to a byte, 1,024 bytes to a kilobyte, and so on and so forth. So really all it is a sequence of zeros and ones that are put together in order to represent some value or a character or anything you can think of. I'm pretty sure you've all played those games where you would create a key and then you'd give it to your friends, and then you would kind of make messages, and you use that key and you send a message to your friend. And since they have the table showing them how to decode what you're saying, then you can send some data over. They get it, they decode it, and then they can interpret it however they want. So what happens is that we take that data, which could be anything, characters, it could be positions, it could be anything. We'll talk about those later. And we pack them into what's called a packet. So we pack them into a packet. So a packet is a pack of bits. And we'll talk about sizing of packets and all of that whenever we talk about UDP and TCP packet or TCP streams and UDP packets and all of that fun stuff. But for now, just know that that data is constructed into a packet, which is a bunch of zeros and ones. Whenever we're talking about UDP specifically, mainly, I'm not going to go into the super low level about how TCP operates as a stream, how it cuts whatever data you send into packets and sends it, whatever. So we're going to keep it high level. And it's also good to note that we'll mostly be talking about UDP because that's the main transportation protocol for games. Of course, as networks get faster, we see more games running on TCP and everything, but we're going to focus on UDP. I'll talk about TCP as we go on. So we take all that data that we've constructed and we put it into a packet. And then we can move that packet around. So I have my packet here, and If I'm talking to a client, the server will send that packet to the client. The client will take that packet, decode it, and then do something with it. And if it can go the other way around, where the client creates some data, sends it to the server, and the server decodes it and does something with it. It can also be replicated. So this client can send it to the server can validate the packet, and then send the packet to the other clients. So that effectively, client A here was able to talk to client B, but through the server, not directly. So packets is just binary data that gets sent back and forth or around a network. So if we're talking about a peer-to-peer architecture, in this case, anyone can send data to anybody. So this peer can send it to this guy can send to that guy, this guy can send to this guy. We can have it go all the way around, we can have it go back and forth, any direction, it doesn't matter. They all can communicate with each other. So I'd like to stress that Forge networking and pretty much any other game server architecture that you're going to use is going to be server client for security reasons. So the client communicates server to client. So the reason you want to do this is because, let's say this data was cheating, like this data is saying that this client just teleported across the map. We'll send that to the server will get it and read it and say, hey, you're not allowed to do that, and then it'll just throw away the message. Or it may send something back and say, hey, you're not allowed to do that, and fix it. If we could talk directly peer-to-peer, then we could say this guy can hack and say, oh, okay, well, I'm totally teleporting across the map, and you both are just going to believe me because there's no validation. Even if this peer says, hey, that's not true, and kicks it back, the other one might accept it. He could send two different sets of data to the two different clients. So that's basically how the communication works on the networking structure. And next we'll go into UDP, TCP, and kind of this binary data stuff. So leave any comments that you have. I'm going to start working on the next video now. I'm trying to keep these videos under 10 minutes each. So if you have any questions, also ask. I may cover it in the next sequence of the tutorial. So I'll be putting these tutorials up on YouTube. I'll put them on the Forge Networking website and make sure everyone gets to see them. Yeah, thanks for watching.